Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer, and here with me, as usual, Mr. Mark Morrison
Howdy.
on camera.
Yep, we got a new
Uh,
one, so.
yes, cool that we have you on camera for this. Is a special episode, our last one of 2023, and our where we're also going to crown our game of the year, and also just look back at the year and talk about some of the big headlines and other things from the year of 2023 in gaming. So, I guess big thing for you since the last time you were on, you have a new laptop.
Yep.
Anything you want to say
It's
about
an
it there?
Asus G16. I think it's the Strix model, but I'm not sure. It's got 10,000 different models. Uh, it's all right. You know, it's been 7 years since I had since I bought my last laptop. So,
Yeah,
needed an update.
yeah. It always gets to that time, especially when you get laptops. You can't be messing with the insides too much. So,
Right. Yeah, I did put in some, this had a, 1 terabyte SSD, and I got a new 2 terabyte one, uh, like added as well, which is nice. Uh, but yeah, I'm happy with it so far. Except I had to downgrade it from I had Windows 11 on it, which is terrible. So I had to put Windows 10 onto it.
yeah, that sucks. Well, hopefully, it wasn't too much of a trouble to have to downgrade.
No, it's actually pretty seamless. My problem with Windows 11, I didn't like how it looked. That was kind of, I could kind of get around that, but like it was a huge RAM hog for some reason.
Oh,
Like it would be idling at like 60%, and I'm like, yo dog, I haven't opened anything up yet. Like this is turning it on. Like it'd be like
right.
62% memory utilization. And it's like that's not great. And then,
Yeah, not
I, I'd be opening Chrome tab. I have a bunch of Chrome tabs usually open anyway, but like that would hurt the problem to the point where like Chrome would be running out of memory.
oof.
And it's like I shouldn't have more memory problems with with 16 gigabytes of RAM than my previous laptop, which had 12.
Right.
And also like it wouldn't go away. Like even if I closed Chrome, the memory usage might go down like a few percentage points, but not dramatically, and then it would just start climbing back up. It got to the point where like I idle like one time last week, it was like 82%, and I'm like,
That's crazy.
that's a lot. Like
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. Like there's nothing open on this thing that would necessitate that at all. It's like some weird either memory leak or some cache issue.
Mm.
There were a bunch of different options or suggestions from people about how to fix it, but
Yeah.
it's like no, just uh, I'm just gonna get to Windows 10.
Well, anything else you want to say about it really quick or
I'm gaming more on it now. I reinstalled WoW for like a month just to get
yeah.
the Christmas crap. I installed Forza Horizon 5,
Okay.
which I like, but the
That went
like
pretty well on it.
yeah, yeah, it does. It handles it quite nicely. The Some of the Mexican stuff is a little goofy, but
Yeah.
it's a Horizon game, so I kind of give that a pass. uh, I did try to install the Outer Worlds because I don't have Star Citizen, and
Yeah.
all the games I like really want to test out on this thing I don't have, like Cyberpunk or Starfield or Baldur's Gate.
Right.
Uh, so the Outer Worlds came out in 2019, and that does not have uh, native gamepad support for PS4, PS5 controllers.
Oh, really? Wow.
There's some hackneyed method for like to use controllers, but it didn't actually work in Steam like that
So
well.
you can't even use like a let's say a gamepad or whatever.
A Microsoft one you probably could. But not a PS4 one or PS5 one, which is all I got
Oh,
right now. So
oh you
that
don't
was
have like a old 360 controller thing
I
or
used to have a really not, but I used to have like a wired one, but they don't make those anymore. They made those
yeah,
in
they
like
don't.
a decade.
I still have
So
my old one, and that's it.
yeah, trying to. I mean, I have one, but like the cord, I think got frayed or got damaged somehow. So like it would keep disconnecting.
Oh,
Uh, so yeah, that was a huge hassle. So yeah, that's the only thing I can use at this time is a PS4 controller. Uh, but yeah, I like the laptop a lot so far. You know, it hopefully served me well in the next few years at least.
well, that's good. I've been thinking about doing the same. This laptop is what I think like 2017. So
Your laptop's like at least 1 or 2 years newer, but yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm moving next week. Um, it's just two doors down, but I'm moving, so I'll have my own room again. The first thing I haven't had my own room for I think 3 years. As you can tell, this is my daughter's room that I'm always doing the show in.
well, it's
Uh,
still your room,
yeah. But I have to work in here, and it's and it sucks because I always feel like I'm invading her space. So you can finally just I can actually feel like I can end work, and if I want to game for 2 hours and then go to sleep, I can do that
right?
and not feel like I have to just get out so that she can go to sleep and have
Right.
school the next day. So
Yeah.
all right, so yeah, I don't know if next week I'll be doing it from here again or from the new place, but yeah, next week we'll probably be doing like our most anticipated games and that kind of thing since we still got like a few weeks before the new games of 2024 come out. But this show is about 2023. And before we get into talking about the games of 2023 and all that, I guess let me do the housekeeping really quick. If this is your first time listening or watching live, normally we do the show like on Fridays around noontime, but I've had COVID for like 3 or 4 days. My mom got it and then passed it to all of us. The one holiday gift you didn't want.
Right.
Um, so it sucks, unfortunately, but I'm okay enough. I've had to work actually throughout having COVID throughout this entire time, so I'm thankful that I'm working from home and don't have to go to the office. But yeah, it hasn't been great, but at least I'm well enough to be able to do this right now. So if you do watch live, normally we are on Fridays around noontime. Just so you know, right here on the W7 Network, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, you can watch us live on Instagram now. Actually, that's something StreamYard added like a couple weeks ago. And on Twitter, all that's W2 Network. And then if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you not only get what we do here, the video game stuff, but we also have a great entertainment group, Relative Broadcasting. Marc and his crew do like awesome stuff for movies and TV. Pretty much every current movie that comes out, they pretty much have the review that next Monday or Tuesday. And the TV shows they do a pretty good job keeping up with as well. So I think they have the Aquaman, uh, Lost Kingdom review out there if you want to go watch that. And of course, Talk to Keiki, which is our anime show. Ethan and Matt do a great job over there. You can go check them out. They did their fall specials where they give out their awards for the fall shows and everything. So if you're wanting to know what to check out from this last season, definitely go watch that as well. So without further ado, just remember you can also go listen on podcasts as well. It comes out a little bit later on podcasts, um, but you can go check it out there as well if you prefer to listen with your ears. So, all right, Marc, let's look into this year, and I think it'd be kind of bad for us to not. We have to kind of talk about the obvious, right? Almost 10,000 uh, different game dev jobs have been lost. Game industry jobs have been lost this year. Feels like much bigger loss this year than a lot of other years, where it felt like it was constant. Even the great Bobby Kotick a few days ago, right? Gone from Activision Blizzard after the merger with Microsoft finally went through.
Right.
Um, we've lost some known studios, all that. I mean, just it sucks with like so many great games to talk about. We've had to talk about this a lot this year too.
Yeah. Uh, yep.
Anything like any studio that like you really hate seeing go, or something that, like really stood out to you from one of those that, like, I feel like Embracer was probably the worst of all of them, just from they took up so much all those years, and then they've just been letting people go constantly.
Yeah. Like their downfall. I mean, they're still around, but their downfall is fairly impressive.
Yeah,
uh, Unity is probably the biggest one to me. Like how they completely created their business, like unnecessarily.
right.
uh, yeah. Can't really think
Yeah,
of
and
like.
John Riccatello having basically leaving right after that too, just having
Yeah.
to
To
eat the
that mea
mistake.
culpa. Yeah. Uh,
um,
yeah. I mean, it's been hard for some people, or for some companies, and even companies that were successful have still had a lot of difficulties this year.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Epic with Fortnite. We had Microsoft laid off people. Like almost every studio, Naughty Dog laid off people. I mean, almost pretty much every studio you could think of. Even Insomniac. Aside from the terrible leaks they went through, one of the things we did find out in those leaks is that apparently they're going to have to lay off at some point people as well. So, and that's Sony's most consistent studio, pretty much, as far as this generation goes so far. So
Yeah.
it's incredible what it's shown that this year has been, with all the highs we've had, such terrible lows this year, not just in the that industry side, but also on the game journal side as well. Just so many just total divisions lost there, and even total sites gone because of that. So um yeah, it just sucks to see, and I felt like we couldn't really move on to talk about good things about the year without having to like mention probably one of the most prevalent bad things about this year first. When we discuss that.
Sure.
Um I guess let's look at it from the perspective, I guess, of, because we're going to talk about the game, our top games at the end. So I don't think we need to really highlight so much the games, I guess. One of the big things obviously for Sony is their one big game was Marvel Spider-Man 2, which we'll talk about. But they had a change with Jim Ryan kind of stepping down, and now they're going to have a lot of uncertainty going forward. I mean, like when you look at Sony's year, they had the one big game, but any other things like stand out to you from Sony this year?
That
P-
portable thing came out
yeah, the
that
Portal,
is apparently doing well, kind of.
yeah,
Uh,
PSVR 2,
yep.
which I don't really hear a lot of people talking about, just aside from when it launched, and then
Other than that still exists, right?
yeah,
That's out.
right,
Uh, I think like the PlayStation 5 has had not a spectacular year, but it towed the line pretty well, or just kept
yeah,
on doing what it does.
sold outsold Microsoft 3-1 with the Xbox, and
I think people still wish that like their online service was better, or like the
right.
streaming stuff, especially like the old games. Like
Yeah, premium still feels like it's, I pay for it, but
yeah,
I still don't know why I paid those extra $2, because there's really not. I mean, there is stuff on there, right? It's not like there's not anything, but
right,
it just really feels like it doesn't. You haven't really given me enough reason to pay those extra $2, and to say that it should exist. Do
yeah,
more for it or take it away. Just put it all in the two boxes, and
right.
be done there. Um,
It'd be nice if the whoever takes over Sony's the next person has more of a I wouldn't say obsession, but more of an interest in like preservation and retro stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, like the idea that like with like backward compatibility with Xbox or even the Switch, like the Switch backward stuff. Like we're not going to get every PS1, PS2, PS3 game running on a PS5. That just will
yeah.
never
And I
happen.
don't think they're ever going to solve the native PS3 problem. I think that's always going to be streaming.
Right. But I
Yeah,
would say, I mean, they could probably get a lot of their own PS1, PS2, PS3 stuff running, and
maybe. Yeah,
at least PS1 and PS2. Like that's extremely easy at this point. Uh, I would say for like the handful of PS3 games that are actually like beloved or very niche or locked to that system, you know, start porting it. If you can't build an emulator, find the quickest and easiest way to port it over.
yeah. I
Like,
mean that
I want to play
right.
Tokyo Jungle HD. God damn it!
You know, the thing is, I'm guessing for Sony's side, they still need to see that people are wanting to invest in that. I don't know how their metrics go or how many people are subscribed to premium versus extra or just essential or whatever. I mean, they're the ones that have those numbers, but it is kind of important to kind of make that value happen. And I guess if you don't have enough people complaining about it, especially when you're going to charge that extra amount per year if you subscribe to the yearly plan, it
Well, I
kind of
think
feels
like
like
this year and last year has shown like that. Sony games and Steam and the PC, there's obviously demand there. Those are successful.
right.
So, get with it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's gonna change at all with who they bring in. Are they gonna keep that the same? Are they going to perhaps streamline that more? Would
Yeah.
that change at all? As to their whole thing with PC, do they try to bring in PC games faster into the whole thing? So that'll be interesting to see what they do with that. Do they add
Yeah.
anything to the port? I'm still wondering if they're going to add streaming to the portal at some point. I don't know if they can do that with some kind of update, but I feel like that is like the one thing that look. It's great. I've seen so many people that say that they got it as a gift for Christmas. I've seen a lot of people say that they got one and that they found uses for it that they never thought they were going to need. And imagine if it had streaming and you can actually not have to be Wi-Fi connected and you can go somewhere that maybe doesn't have fantastic internet, but you could still use it streaming wise, and it
That
would make it a bigger thing for them. I think
that won't happen. But
you don't. Okay,
'cause it's not like some. Yeah, it just won't happen.
all right, just something I thought I'd bring up, but yeah, it will be interesting to see if anything changes for them on the VR front. Do they have big first party games coming, or is it all going to be third party? We've already seen the highly rated Asgard's Wrath 2 come out for the MetaQuest 3, and that thing is took some headlines like late in the middle of December there before Christmas. So how much will Sony support that going into this year? And really kind of what's up for them. Like this year, we kind of know that first 3 months, right? A lot of it's third party, but we'll see what happens to them. I mean, right now they're successful; they're doing great as far as what they've been able to do and how the system's selling. Got a lot of we don't know what's going on with the games of service stuff, kind of going backwards with that a little bit. It
Yeah.
feels like, but yeah, Xbox finally got their big deal through. That was probably one of the biggest things to follow for this year was is Xbox going to get this to pass, right? And they finally did after making the concession of Ubisoft is the one that's going to control their cloud gaming. We'll see how that works eventually. I still feel like there's going to be some kind of Ubisoft Plus thing eventually that gets tagged onto Game Pass that will make that cloud thing not as a little bit less like inconspicuous as it is right now. But yeah, um, I don't know. They had Hi-Fi Rush. They had some other big games come out this year. What did you think about? I guess I know you don't own a Series X or S, but what did you think about Xbox this year?
I mean, Hi-Fi Rush seemed cool. And Forza Motorsport, I think it's just one, or
Yeah,
I think they took the number
it's kind
off.
of it's 8, but they took the number off. Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
that seems serviceable enough. But they've had a rough year this year with Redfall completely tanking,
right.
and Starfield. I don't know if it's a success or not. Like they say it is.
Well, it is as far as it actually made money compared to things that we know Game Pass can sometimes make people not buy things. It is
Yeah,
actually one of those games that people bought aside from it also being on Game Pass. So
yeah. I mean, I'd buy a copy on Steam if I had the money to.
right,
But there's just not a ton of buzz around it.
yeah.
And
Well, people talk about it, right?
okay, but yeah, but like
It's
look at the
yeah,
Game Awards. Like it got one
yeah,
nomination for I think like best RPG, which it obviously lost. And
right,
even in that category, it's not like it was a close second or anything like that.
right.
Uh,
Arguably, there could have been others that are second. Yeah, exactly.
so I just think like their whole this is the game of the generation, the game of the decade, or whatever
Hmm.
bullshit they were trying to say. Like, don't hype it up that much.
Yeah, it's definitely in the conversation because it's very controversial. Like you've got the people that are very gun ho about it. They enjoy it, you know. It's also got a lot of controversy because it's got weird Steam reviews where you got people that played 800 hours and somehow hate it. And then you got
Yeah,
people that played it for like 2 hours and are sitting there speaking the gospel about it. So you don't know what to believe, honestly, sometimes. A lot of people that kind of felt like it was kind of like, all right, you know, whatever. It's definitely not a game of the generation. So interesting to kind of like at least you were a talking point the whole year. But you know, I'm not a Bethesda person, so it wasn't a game that even is on Game Pass. I It didn't motivate me that much to play, especially because
it
you
ain't
know
your game.
everything I kind of saw. Well, like everything I kind of saw was like, okay, this is not what we were thinking it was going to be, and all that. Like, you know, um,
I think people like really
no,
wanted like uh Firefly, and like a Firefly RPG,
right,
and that's arguably like more what the Outer Worlds is. That's kind of what I wanted to like replay it or play it. But Starfield incredibly like very sanitized and like very clean and like almost without a personality.
mhm,
So I mean, I guess I can't judge it since I haven't played it, but that's just like
right,
the surface level to me.
yeah.
And then going like, oh, I got this great big ship builder. It's like, okay, that's great, I guess, but how does that materially impact the gameplay? Or who cares? Like,
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean, hell,
Uh,
what game had a good ship builder? Kingdom Hearts 1.
oh my god. Uh, yeah, definitely. Um, that's the thing that kind of sucks too, right? Like it does have like cool things about it. It's just it doesn't have enough of those cool things like all together that
Yeah.
kind of motivated people to get
And
going.
I think their rationale for at least Starfield is like, oh, we got 1,000 planets, but it's not all of them are inhabited with cool shit to do.
Right.
And then going like, oh, but some planets are boring, or that's just the way it would be. It's like, well, yes,
Uh,
in
that's
reality it would be like
true.
that, but you're not, this is a $70 game. Like you either do what Outer Worlds does and only have like 12 planets, but they're all like interesting, or you do what No Man's Sky did and have a billion planets, but have it all like procedurally generated, have something to do, kind of. But
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like that thing of remember it's a video game, and
Yeah,
there's a realism point to it where it's like, do you want to make this fun or not? You know.
right.
Um.
But I
Yeah.
think like
Yeah.
I
Go
I
ahead.
mean I was gonna say like I think overall the Xbox has had you know a decent year, and they're obviously
Right.
happy that Activision thing finally got rammed through. But well, I think it's still like the wait and see approach of we're still waiting for these games to hit. And
Yeah.
the funniest thing to me is that they're dropping to the price of the current Xbox Series X to like 350.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely want again. Xbox is about getting you into their ecosystem, right? They don't. It doesn't. They're already
Yeah,
losing on the Xbox, so why not discount it even more to get people to buy it and get in it?
y-
You
yeah.
know.
When I turned my computer on and I set it up for like Windows 11 and 10, both times they offered me like a free Game Pass trial run
Yeah.
for like a month or 3 months or something. It's like I got Steam, I'm cool.
You didn't want to take it just to test it out for a month. All right.
I mean, I can always get it. I think like
Yeah, I
I don't
guess.
think that goes away.
Um. Yeah, Xbox is really about let's see what happens with this Activision Blizzard stuff. I mean, they could definitely announce certain things. Already getting rumors of there is somebody working on Banjo. Finally, well, that's I don't know that it's not been substantiated by anybody. It's just a
They're
rumor
gonna
right
put
now,
Banjo in
but
Warzone, aren't they?
yeah. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's all about a wait and see. Still got Hellblade 2 coming next year and other games that they are kind of waiting in the wings to see where they are. Does Avowed finally come out? Does some other things finally come out that we've been waiting on? Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's see what kind of year Xbox has next year. But this year they
Next
had
year,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say next year is finally the year of Fable.
Yeah. Um yeah, I think if you don't count, the things that were technically not part of Microsoft until later in the year, and they weren't made with anything that have to do with Microsoft, right? Like Diablo 4 doesn't really have anything to do with Microsoft at this point. It was made,
Right.
before they were acquired. They really had Hi-Fi Rush. Forza Motorsport is great for what that is, but it's not. It doesn't seem like it set the world on fire because it's not. It's not like when Forza Horizon came out, where we were talking about Game of the Year for Forza Horizon. That's not even been on anybody's radar, and look how great this year's been. So it's kind of like been Hi-Fi Rush, and that's kind of like what they've been, going on. Other than they added some great games to Game Pass, which we'll talk about some of those when we talk about the games. But I feel like if we're going to talk about the big three, the one that's outshone everybody, and they're the ones that have the highest or the oldest system is Nintendo this year. They flat
Yeah.
out just said if this really is going to be the last year of the Switch, bangers out here with Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Wonder, the Xenoblade 3 DLC. They
Mario
had
RPG, Pikmin
Mario
4,
RPG, Pikmin
Ad-
4,
Advance Wars finally came out.
finally, yeah. A Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, um, just and not to mention it's still the indie machine, so all the indies that came to it as well and all that.
I
It just
mean,
yeah.
that's a consequence of it being a mature machine. I don't know. I don't mean mature like game, like old or over 17, obviously. But it's been out for 7 years, and
Yeah.
you know they know how to work it for that. But, I mean, the problem though is like they're all Nintendo games. That's always been the problem since the GameCube.
Yeah. No, I mean it's I definitely third party supported them a lot more with the Switch. It's just it's obviously underpowered, so there's only so many that
Have you
can support them. You know.
you should try that Batman Arkham Trilogy collection.
No, I don't want to. Arkham Knight is apparently absolutely horrible on there.
Yeah,
Uh
the other two aren't great either.
But no, it's still incredible to me that Nintendo was able to pull all of that out this year on that system. And we still don't know what more Metroid Prime 4 is. But they also had Metroid Prime Remaster, and
Yep.
that thing looks like it's actually almost like a remake of Metroid Prime, with how good it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they really were able to pull out all the big ones, and now it's like they have some really cool stuff coming next year as well. And it's kind of like that looming thing of, do they actually announce the Switch 2 next year? That's the sort of thing that's kind of sitting there for Nintendo. Do you think it actually does get announced?
I think it'll be announced next year, but I don't think it'll be released next year.
Okay.
I think they'll still have like one more year of it won't be like a banner year, but they'll have like one more year of like Metroid Prime 4, maybe one or two other games, like more stopgap games, and then it'll be like that'll be it.
Yeah, they have the Showtime Princess Peach game coming, I
Yeah,
think, like in March. And I we still don't know where those the rumored Twilight Princess and Wind Waker remakes are. Will they
yeah.
pull those out next year? Does the Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters show up next year? Does Metroid Prime 4 show up next year? Or do they wait for the Switch 2 for that?
Right.
Um, yeah, there's games they could pull out of a hat, and obviously there's always the ports that they can do to kind of get people going, of older games as well that work for the Switch. So
They
yeah,
don't get too many of those left anymore, though. I mean,
yeah, they put a lot of stuff on there, for sure.
there's that one that
Uh,
you want, like Xenoblade Chronicles X, but that's about it.
yeah, um, it'd be cool if we got Chrono Trigger on there, but not holding my breath that
I actually
that's
just Speaking of that, I actually just bought a copy of that like a week ago, like 4 days ago.
what on Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
Oh wow, I imagine that was expensive.
200.
Jeez.
But
All
I got
right.
it for like 130 because I traded in some other crap.
Okay. Well, the game's definitely worth it for that.
Yeah.
But all right, I think we've kind of looked at the big three. We've looked at some of the big
What about
stories.
the stadium, man? Come on.
No, anything else you want to talk about of from the year that we might have missed, or
I haven't
you?
set it up yet, but I got my analog duo, so I'll test that out eventually.
But all right, let's talk about our 25 games. Our best 25 games of this year. I'm going to go ahead and put out the thing right now that
The coda or the preface.
the preface that we are not, these are games that myself, Mark, or Randy played. Randy couldn't be on today because um
He's a slacker. No.
he's doing sports
Work.
broadcasting for a
Yeah.
basketball tournament. So
Well,
um
here's the thing.
yeah,
Uh, at least this year, I really didn't play a ton of games.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, you had a lot of the year you were
yeah,
recuperating.
yeah,
So
I was out of action.
yeah,
So, and we all like none of us played every game, this or every big game.
This
So
is yeah,
like,
this is one of those years where we have gaps definitely with the big
so like,
games.
the biggest game is Baldur's Gate 3. That's
Yeah, this
generally considered the game of the year. Like, and none of us played it. Jens has played it a little, uh, but he won't finish it until 2026 at least.
yeah.
So he ain't gonna review it or anything. Uh, so yeah, like there are games that I would have loved to play, like Lies of P, or
I played it a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Re-
that's not again, that's not your type of game anyway.
Right.
But
I
or like
did
Alan,
enjoy it for it not being my type of game actually,
yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
I'm thinking more myself, like or Alan Wake 2. Like that's really up
Yeah.
my alley, but I didn't play it. So
Right, right.
or I mean, the biggest one to me, not the biggest, but another big one to me, and something I don't think any of us played, which is kind of shocking. is Mario RPG.
I played Mario RPG. Yeah, it's
Okay,
just I didn't vote for it because um I felt it does do things differently than the original, but
yeah,
it's not like it does this huge leap forward.
I got
Where
new.
yeah,
I got news about Spider-Man 2 then for you.
I don't know. I had other games that I enjoyed more
Yeah,
out of my top 10 or whatever that you know I think the one that wound up winning is not surprising, but yeah, it's so that's the thing. There's going to be some games missing, obviously, that are in other people's lists that have been able to play, or they have a bigger group of people to go from. So
yeah,
just be prepared for that. Um, so yeah, and this time we did it differently. The other years we've either had more people on the episode where we do this, and we actually kind of do the banter back and forth where we decide the whole list with people on here. Last year we tried to do that with me and Mark, and it I kind of listened back to it, and it just didn't work very well. Because it's just two people talking, and then after a while, it kind of we end up saying the same things, and when you get to the whole point of the actual ranking part, it's like there's not a lot of fun discussion for that.
yeah.
So what we did was we kind of did the point system. Randy, Mark, and myself gave our Randy gave a top 10 because that's pretty much the 10 games that he played this year that were from 2023. And then Mark and I kind of filled out the rest. We did like a top 13 or top 15, and then they wound up being like, our 11ths also factored in. So we did that. I ranked them with points, and that's how we decided 25 games that are on this list. So some of Randy's games that we're not familiar with, we're it's going to be really quick that we're going to pass through them. Moving Out 2 is the first one on the list. That was Randy's number 10. It's a game I like Moving Out 1. I meant to play it. It was on PS Plus actually this year, and I did not get to it, so I can't comment on it. But hey, he liked it enough to put it on here, so there you go. Um, Mark actually won the heads or tails, so all of his uh all his numbered ones that were above the same as mine, they got the top spot when we go to the tie break. So number 24 for me, which was my number 11, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. It's on Game Pass. You guys can go play it right now. For me, I played Ishin as well, and I know you did as well, Mark. I felt like Ishin is cool as a historical tale or whatever, but I think if Ishin was your first
It,
kind
it
of
would be it would be really bad for that.
yeah, like I think Gaiden actually works as a good here is a short intro into what Like a Dragon used to be,
Well,
and you get a yeah, go ahead.
here's the thing: Ishin is based on an a
Yeah.
PS3 game, and
Yeah,
I
that
mean
too.
the roots are there. You can clearly see that the roots are still there from that thing. So the Man with No Name being a smaller game that's more based on the recent games helps.
Yeah. Like I just think that when we're comparing the two, I think that honestly it's a better game to if I'm gonna pick one or the other. I think it works better as number one, it's a great story for Kiryu. Yes, you will not have any of the backstory for Kiryu if you're starting this as
Don't
your
worry, they always got
yeah,
videos and shit to catch you up.
yeah,
Like this is what happened in
but
the past 8 games.
right. But the ending is great. Also, like it has a wonderful ending. Some of the gameplay stuff is not great because it does feel like they're kind of like slowly gating you through the game because this was supposed to be DLC,
Yeah,
and it does feel like DLC at times. because of that. So you don't have the necessarily like, oh, where the side stories kind of come out of nowhere and whatever, but the things that make it special for me are like uh the agent powers are really fun to use. I love using that like electro whip to like throw people around and whatever, and it was like a really fun game that I mean, obviously it had the effect that I wanted to play it also because of it has the Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth demo
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, like it's just you get a lot of the what made Like a Dragon special. If you haven't played any of these and you're like looking forward to Infinite Wealth, or you've only played the original Like a Dragon, Yakuza 7, then this is like a great way for you to kind of, okay, this is kind of what I missed. You'll either end up liking this or not. And then that's kind of it, like, and also they added the English VO now too. So if it being in Japanese is an issue, you
Right.
can obviously play it in
Al-
English too.
Although I know the English guy who does Kiryu is like not great at it.
Yeah,
Yongmi, like
I don't want
really
to.
him?
I don't want to disparage somebody. I haven't listened to it. I know there's a lot of people that are Yakuza fans that are not big on it. So
Trying to
I
bring
can
back
kind of
Michael Mad,
understand that.
trying to bring back Michael Madsen.
Yeah. Oh God. Let's. I don't think we need to go that far.
Yeah.
Um. But no, it's. I think it works for what it is, and it work. I think it's perfect for Game Pass. Like I think it's perfect for being on that, and yeah, more people should go play it. I think it's kind of underrated from this year for sure.
Yeah.
Probably a game that I think a lot of people are probably going to be surprised that it's low on this list. This is Mark's number 11 game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Why is it so low for you, Mark?
It just wasn't like as interesting as the first game. I mean, that's going to be kind of a recurring issue on this list, I think. Uh, like I really like the first game, and this game has some of the magic, but not enough. And also had some like glaring technical issues on PS5. I know they've like patched up to like be 60 frames per second now, which is would probably help. Uh, yeah, just too much like of the same thing. It's still good, and when they make the third one, I'll probably play that too. But I didn't even finish this one, so
Man, that says a lot right there.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's one of those games that like I feel like a lot of people enjoyed when it first came out, and then it kind of got lost in the
It's
shuffle
also
there. Yeah.
it's also weird because like I found it was like, pretty easy compared to like the first game. Uh,
Mhm.
like it's supposed to be like the Dark Souls like game, but there's not a ton of challenge in this one. Uh, and also like they gave you upgrade points and stuff, but it's like you're just looking at this stuff going like nothing in this tree interests me at all. Like, what am I supposed to spend this on? Like I guess I'll spend it on this thing because why not? But it's not like, oh, I'm saving up these points to get this one ability or anything like that.
Yeah. Uh, I have also I heard that it's a lot bigger in this one than
Yeah,
you
I
know
don't know about bigger. Maybe, I mean, maybe like the main
some
planet
of
is
the
certainly
cities are
bigger.
bigger, right?
Yeah, like
And
the main hub city is definitely like pretty huge. Uh, I would say to me it felt pretty comparable to like the last one though, honestly.
does it feel? I mean, a lot of people made a lot of about the stances, right? Like having the different stances and having
Yeah, I think
it
there's
being
five.
harder than the last game.
I don't find it harder at all actually. Uh,
Really? Okay.
there I guess like one or two bosses or some stuff is more annoying, but you can just kind of I just eventually started cheesing stuff. But It was more like I think there are 5 stances, and that might be like one too many because he had like, one lightsaber, 2 lightsabers, dual bladed lightsaber, blaster with lightsaber, and I think there's one more. Uh, and it's like this is a lot.
Yeah,
Keep track of, and certain stances work better against others. I just used the double bladed one because that's one that could deflect laser blasts the best.
yeah, can understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you,
I liked it, but
yeah,
I completely forgot I played it until we talked about this an hour ago. So, and I have like no desire to go back to playing it. After I uninstalled it a while ago anyway, so
yeah.
fine.
If you do want to hear, like, I did have, oh man, I did have Andrew on when the game first came out. We have an episode where he reviews it. From the Andrew from the DualSense podcast, he really liked the game. So you can go check out our episode on that on the YouTube channel or on podcasts.
Yeah,
And he gives a great review of it. So yeah, this is like, man, this was such a stacked year for games that while it is surprising because it is one of the big AAA games,
right,
um, this is also a game that like was nominated for Game Awards and really didn't get
right. Yeah,
anything either. So, you know, it is what it is. So
it's a very good game, but
yeah,
that's not a memorable one or like a special one.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, that's the thing when you have this year was big on sequels,
Yeah,
and when you have that feeling of being with sequels, um, then you're gonna run into that. For some people, it's gonna be a huge revolution, and it's gonna be worth checking out, and it's gonna be like the game that's gonna be some of the games I'm gonna talk about that are sequels or were great for me. Like I thought they actually moved upon the first game. Like they actually iterated upon it, and there's some that are just, hey, it's a really great one of these, and that's kind of what happens sometimes with that.
yeah.
So moving on the list here, our 20 our 22 um is Humanity. Randy voted for Humanity as his number 9. I did play some of this actually because it was on PS Plus. This is actually a game that's probably better in VR, just for the fun of that. But it's like a Lemmings game. So you're doing like puzzles and you're moving these hordes of people, and you're a dog, and you're kind of moving them to solve this puzzle, and it gets increasingly harder how you have to move them. And just in the levels that I played, it's actually really cool the way that they make you have to think about how can I get these people to move this way so that they go out this door and fall this certain way. And it's like it's really well done. It's really well done actually. um so I can see why Randy put it on here, and I've seen some people want to put it on their lists and stuff like that, so it's been getting some love in places.
Yeah,
Is this a game that would interest you at all, or
I didn't really like the look of it, but I might give it a shot. I mean, I like the guy who made it, so he
yeah?
does good work.
All right. Randy says he's actually going to be able to join us at some point here. He's on the way home. So whenever he gets back
keep
on, I'll
keep delaying until
so I guess the next one, number 21, Diablo 4, Mark. This is another game that was huge and big at the start of the when it first came out, and then all of a sudden the season 1 of the next part of it came
season 5.
out,
Yep.
and it did everything wrong apparently and made people fall out of love with the game and all that. Is that kind of what happened with you, or would
I'm
you end up
still
why is it
I'm
so
actually
low
still
for you on
playing
here?
it, kind of. I finally got a character up to level 100. Uh, I don't know how people did it in like 2 days. It's like it took me like 3 months. You
That's
know,
crazy. That's crazy to me.
I assume they're just like power leveling like crazy, or having friends who are like way higher level, get them up to
Yeah,
that,
maybe.
or I mean, I think when you play with more people, you do get more experience. So that's probably it as well. Uh,
Yeah, that could
I think the
be.
biggest problem with Diablo 4 uh, is even compared to Diablo 3, it's not spontaneity. Like there's no spontaneity in the game at all, and there are few things like, oh, the world boss. It's like, okay, it's not spontaneous at all. Like you just it appears every 6 hours. You know where it is, or it'll show up on the map. You kill it. It takes 2 minutes, and you just move on to the next thing. Like
Yeah.
there's no, and even like they have like a world quest system kind of, or like, oh, these are the quests in this area, but they all fall under like the same 4 or 5 different categories. So it's just so repetitious, like constantly. And it's like, oh great, I guess I gotta find this corpse again in this fucking rate circle, and activate it, and it'll spawn enemies. I can kill them and repeat forever.
What character did you wind up using? What
Necromancer.
necromancer? Okay.
Because I had the sorcerer with Jens, but after I mean, he hates the game, so we killed Lilith, and he was like, "All right, I'm installing this thing right now." I'm like, uh, yeah, it's just incredibly dull. Like, my high level necromancer is kind of fun now, just because I can kind of just steamroll mostly anything. I still can't like kill Uber Lilith. If I had like a group, I probably could pretty easily, but
Right.
you know, uh, it's just incredibly dull, and I didn't like the look of that game. I know Jens does. I know a lot of people do because they didn't like. I like
I mean,
Diablo
that
3.
looks cool to me. Like yeah, that's one of the things that has always kind of intrigued me about Diablo is this look. But
I like Diablo 3. I mean, Diablo 3 had a more cartoony look, I guess. Like I can agree that might not be great, but Diablo 3 is also like colorful. Like this game, it says like they desaturated the hell out of it and looks like a Dark Souls game. And it's like,
yeah,
yo, I have Dark Souls if I wanted to play that. Like
right.
that's why, I mean, comparing the two, I like Lost Ark a lot more, just because it has like an actual unique visual style instead of just copying the one from you know uh, Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I
All right.
mean,
Fair
when they
enough.
make a new expansion, I'll get it and play it. But and it's a good game just to like really put in a podcast and shut your brain off. But that's about
That's
it.
good too. Yeah, it's good to have
Yeah,
those games as
right.
well. So, um, that being said, let's move on here to, well, it's a remake, but it's a familiar remake. I mean, our number 20 is Randy's number 8 game, Dead Space remake. It's kind of the overlooked of the horror games. There was the big 3 horror games that came out: Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4 remake, and then this remake. And this one came out really early in January, and I feel like there's people that are giving it love, but because it came out so early, it kind
Yeah,
of gets lost in the shuffle. And this one is also um very close to the original, right, as well. So I don't know if you've
I,
seen
I don't
anything.
I don't think it
Yeah,
deviated much at all, did it?
it
Or
added some things to where I think if you like went off the beaten path, there was
yeah,
more monsters that were gonna get you if you didn't do what you're supposed to do. There's a little bit more ambiance to it as well, I think, than in
yeah,
the original. So
but
there's things that they added, and obviously the graphics.
right.
Uh,
Uh, I haven't played it. I did try to play Dead Space 1 and 2 like when they first came out. I didn't
mhm.
wasn't a huge fan of either one, I guess. So that's why I didn't touch this one. But it seemed good, you know. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and
Ho-
also it
Hopefully,
is
I
on
will
Game
talk in
Pass
this
now
one.
too. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's one I'll check out because I've been slowly getting into more survival horror games. So like I picked up Resident Evil 4, but I'm barely early in the game. Like I'm still in chapter 1, so that's why it wasn't high on my list or on my list at all, because I really haven't played it much. So
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever Randy gets on, I'll get him to talk about these ones that we haven't been able to. He had a lot of the other ones, the other games on here. He had those with us. These are the 3 that he didn't. So we'll get to talk about some of his other games that he didn't put in here. So at number 19, a game that is really gotten a lot of love as well. Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon.
Yeah.
Some folks are giving it their game of the year and everything. The most recent FromSoft game. What did you think about this? Is this now the best version of Armored Core? Or?
Yeah, because all the other ones were janky as shit. Like, yeah, I didn't play a ton of this. I played like the first 5 or 10 hours. It weirdly
Yeah.
like made me more tense or more anxious than like Dark Souls.
Wow. Okay.
Which was like weird, but like because they remove a lot of the death penalty in this game, and a lot of the stuff about like in the old games, like if you lost a mission, you got money taken away from you, which sucked.
Okay.
Like because it's like, well, now I'm in the red, like so this is kind of an issue. Uh, and they made this game a lot more approachable and a lot more like fluid, especially like kind of dancing, not dancing, but like skating around the environment. It's like boosting around and stuff. Like it feels a lot more nimble and fun. Uh,
Yeah.
but to me, the anxious part was more like I don't know if like the weapons I have can actually complete this mission or not, and I don't want to keep replaying a mission just to find like, oh, I needed the plasma sword and I don't have it on me, so I guess I'm gonna do this again. But
Hey, Randy. Good to have you
Hey,
on, sir.
how's it going?
yo,
Here to talk about video games I didn't play. What's up?
Yeah. No. So we've kind of already gone. Well, Mark, finish your thoughts on Armored Core here.
no, that was about it. Like it's a good game. The first good game in the franchise.
Yeah. Hey,
I,
better late
I,
than never, right?
yeah, and I can finally make Chrome Hounds too, I guess.
Yeah. So Randy, we've already been through the only 3 games you didn't have that we had on our list. Dead Space 2 or Dead Space remake, Moving Out 2, and what was your now I can't think of the
Humanity.
number. Humanity.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about those since we already
They're all good games. You should play them. And I need to play more of Moving Out too. The only reason Moving Out 2 made my list is we've had a lot of fun as a family playing that game. The reason why it ended up as 10 is because it took everything that was great about Moving Out 2 and overcomplicated it. Or about the
What
first
do you
Moving
mean?
Out.
Yeah, moving on.
What do you
Yeah.
What do you mean by overcomplicating?
Well, moving out, all it is you're moving stuff out of houses and throwing them into truck. And then in the second one, now there's a candy world and all sorts of other different worlds and mechanics that my 6-year-old can no longer understand. So it went from,
Yeah.
okay, we'll pull along the 6-year-old and we'll have fun with it to, well, we're trying to figure out this mechanic and she can't do anything. Like you have to break all these different things, and it's great as an expansion to the first game, but it just got a little overcomplicated for the way we like to play that game. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's a game that I've also had on my list to play, but
Mhm.
that sucks to hear that they overcomplicated it. And it's interesting that all 3 of the games that Randy has on here are either on PS Plus or Game Pass right now. So definitely you guys can go check those out.
Don't call me out as a cheap bastard.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that everybody
It's
can
true.
go check them out right
It's
now.
true.
It's like,
It's 100% true. I'm a cheap.
yeah. Hey, you know what? That's what those are there for, to save people money. Games are freaking expensive. What the heck? So we're at I think number 18. In Stars in Time, which I've talked about a lot, so I'm not going to talk about on here that much. It's also very recent for me, but listen, if you like Undertale and you like time loop games, give this a shot. It's got the Undertale aesthetic with the black and white and the RPG and the weird looking characters and whatever. But what makes this game awesome is the 5 party members, how they all talk to you, the main character, and like their banter with each other makes you want to keep exploring places and what they're going to say next and how they all kind of interact with each other. And that made me kind of keep wanting to play the game because I'm not a big time loop person. I'm not a big like, oh, I want to go play the game that repeats. I don't do roguelikes that much other than like, Hades, things like that. So because I don't like dying to have to constantly keep playing the same game over and over, whatever, So I want to get through the game, keep progressing, and experience what it has, and not have to like feel like I'm hitting a wall. So, but this game just gives you that extra oomph to like want to do that, and then it gives you incentives. So like, hey, if you unlock enough of this, you don't have to go all the way back to the beginning. You just unlock it with everything unlocked. You start from there. So, it's just been really like one of those things. I didn't know what to expect going in. It kind of got a lot of pubs, so I asked for a code, and it's totally surprising. It was one of my favorite games this year. So, definitely go check it out if you have time. Mark, number 17, Forspoken.
Yep.
Probably a lot of people are like, "What the heck is this game doing on here? Wasn't it supposed to be terrible? Why is it on here above some of these other games that people would probably say are more highly regarded?"
Because I realized after I played Final Fantasy 16 that Forspoken was a better game. And that depressed me on a great many levels. And then I realized, whatever.
Okay, fair enough.
Forspoken is, I think, the main character in Forspoken is terrible, and the story is extremely half-baked, to put it mildly. But you do have a huge open world to actually explore, and you have shit to do. There's an actual gear system in the game, an actual level up system in the game. There's parkour mechanics and good combat in the game. That helps.
Yeah, I do think that this game kind of got a bad hand. Like, I do think that there is a little bit of, we focus too much on, okay, the banter between what is that thing called?
Like arm brace, or I forget what
the arm brace and the main character are annoying, and there's a lot of, isn't the world kind of like there's not a whole lot there, and
there is, I mean, there's only like one town, I guess, because everything else is corrupted. But yeah, like the world building, like you can take it or leave. But like actually playing the game is a lot more fun. Like, especially like once you start upgrading the mechanics and like unlocking stuff. And the fact there's only 4 systems of magic is really nice because you can actually quickly alternate between them all with the press of a D-pad. So then going into some menu and going, I want to select the ice power now.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a game that I wanted to try out, but it never went out. Like, it's one of those things I've talked about a bunch of times where I hate the fact that the one they discount is the super deluxe edition, so it's not really that much of a sale.
Yeah.
And then the standard edition could actually be like $30, and then I would actually go and buy the game. But it's just
well, hey, it's $23 on Amazon, so you can go buy that one.
I guess. But I don't know, did this ever interest you, Randy? Or
it has. I'm the same boat as you, where time and money have not aligned quite yet, where I haven't given it a try. I do agree. Just from what I've seen, I think it gets a bad rap just from the stuff I've watched. It looks like it's a very interesting game, but like I said, I haven't touched it. But hopefully, if things kind of align, I'll finally give it a shot. I said the same thing last year about Returnal. I actually have it now. I haven't had time to play it, but hopefully Forspoken will finally get some playtime on my side.
Yeah, always good when, I mean, that can happen for sure. Number 16 for me is Venba, and it was my number 6 game. And man, it's super short. Number one, it's like an hour and a half. It's on Game Pass, and it absolutely stuck with me because as somebody that has a family, my mom's side is immigrated here from Venezuela. I've been through some of that story, and of rejecting that side of me growing up because I wanted to assimilate more. And then having lived here in Miami, I feel like I missed so much because I rejected that side, right? To the point where because I'm here around more Latino people, a lot of people don't think that I am Latino. And it just hit me. Like it hit me in a way that it's like, I feel like this kid right now, you know? And then like also the cooking part of it where you're learning the different Indian foods and like how to cook them and stuff like that. I went through that as well. Like not really knowing how to cook my own family's food until I came here and my mom, showed me like, hey, you're supposed to know how to do this, but I'm going to show you anyway. And learning like why that's important and the magic and where it comes from. And so like for me, it was a very special game because it touched me on a personal level. And I know there's a lot of other people maybe that felt it like that as well. And I'm just glad that they were able to make that game. And I think Microsoft helped them with funding and, putting on Game Pass and stuff like that as well. So that's really cool when that's what that whole Xbox thing they do with the indies is great because you get games like this. And I think that's awesome. So moving on from that, we got a game that was probably it is a lot of people's game of the year, aside from Baldur's Gate 3, which we've already talked about why it's not here. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Mark.
The one guy who played
it. Well, yeah, you're the only one that played it, but like also, I think you could say why it's perhaps not your
I don't like the lack of story.
Yeah.
The lack of story is annoying.
Yeah.
I thought like it held my interest more than Breath of the Wild did, but still not enough for me to finish it. And arguably, I probably wouldn't have gotten near as far in the game if it didn't have the actual cartridge and like duping items like crazy and breaking the economy.
Yeah.
It's still fun, but the biggest problem in that game actually is like the building system sucks. And considering that's a core tenet of the game, it's like that's okay. That's a choice. Like,
well, but it's kind of like freeform, right? Like you're
but if you're, I mean, even like trying to like put a car together, it just can be an exercise in frustration. It's like, no, I need this wheel to like attach to this one point, and I won't do it. And what the hell am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
But it was good. Looked really nice. I did like the 3 kind of gameplay worlds, like sky, ground, and underground. And like the dungeons itself are good, but there's only 4.
Yeah. At least they made it easier to find the shrines and other things this game. So
yeah,
there's that. Randy, was this a game? I know your son's he was a big Breath of the Wild fan. So
yeah, we own Tears of the Kingdom. He played it for a bit. It bounced off of him. I know a lot of people absolutely love this game. I was with Mark. I did not like Breath of the Wild. It was not my cup of tea as far as Zelda goes. I'm more of a 2D Zelda fan myself, and I just could not get into it. And nothing against Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. It's just not a game for me. But I was more surprised that my son, who really liked Breath of the Wild, got into Tears of the Kingdom for a bit, and then the next time I asked him how it was going, he was playing Breath of the Wild again. So not 100% sure why it bounced off of him, but yeah, he couldn't get into this one as much.
There are, I think one of the problem is in Tears of the Kingdom there are different powers, and they're a little more. I don't want to say advanced, but a little more heady than like the powers in the first game. Like you have this power to like go through walls in Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like you don't really realize what they can do unless you're like really thinking about it. And if you don't, it's just like okay, I use it once in a while, but who cares? Like, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of puzzles do involve that power, but if you don't think about it, then you just kind of bang your head against the wall for a while, figuratively speaking.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, my problem with the first game was it was like way too open, and I felt like I'm like I don't know where I'm going here, and all of that. And then you get into this, and it's like I'm not the most creative person
It's
either.
also the
So
same
then,
thing as well. Like,
yeah, it's also the same thing. So yeah, um, I knew it wasn't going to be for me, and I wasn't going to go spend the $70 to find out if it was going to be for me or not.
yeah,
Whereas Breath of the Wild came out with the system, so there wasn't really much of an option to choose from at that point to say, "Oh, I'm going to go get this other game instead." Like there really wasn't much, much, much to go on then at that point.
it's either this
Um,
or 1, 2, 3 switch.
yeah, definitely not. So, the next game on the list here, Hi-Fi Rush. This was a super like awesome game for me. It hits all of my buttons as far as like loving rhythm games and action games. Then it helps it's animated, and then it was a shadow drop in the late of June at the Xbox Direct thing, and it floored everybody. It floored me. It's absolutely this amazing thing in sound design of just how they make that whole world bounce to that beat. And then the fact that when I figured out I wasn't just getting it, I can turn it off and then just focus on the actual combat part of it, and it's still super fun. And I loved all the characters too; like they're all great and fun to be around as well. The boss battles are super fun. Um, like each one's different too. Each level feels different. The platforming is actually really good too. So yeah, it just like I wanted to keep going in that game. Just constantly just wanting to go to the next thing. And even when you do get stuck, they have ways of helping you get through that. And it's definitely a game that man, I know I think they announced that there's gonna be a sequel, but I can't wait. Or at least I think they kind of said there's gonna be one, so I can't wait for that to come out because this was awesome. Um I don't know, Randy. Did you get a chance to play
I'm
this? It
through
was on
the
Game Pass.
tutorial-ish area of this game. This was one I wanted to try to get to before we got into the voting process, just wasn't able to get to. This is a January game for me. I have some time finally come January where the kids will go back to school and I can finally have some peace and quiet for a little bit. Uh, this is downloaded, ready to go. Like I said, I've gotten just through a little bit. I wanted to get to it before we got to the voting. I had fun with it so far, but yeah, I totally get why you put it on your list.
It seemed
Uh
like a better playing version of uh, Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Overdrive's pretty great too. But yeah, this is better than that for sure.
Yeah.
Um so the next one on here, number 13, Everspace 2, which is it was in early access for a while and then
Yeah.
finally came out this year.
Finally made that
What
big push.
what made it a
I just
special
liked how
game
it
for
played.
you this year?
It's a
Yeah.
little budget. Like it doesn't have like feel like cinematics. It just kind of has like storyboard or like just still shot cinematics. But the actual gameplay is good. Looks really nice. Like the actual ship stuff. It's what you want a ship combat game to be in space. Mm, I liked it. Still not as good as Freelancer, but what is nowadays?
Yeah.
It's hard to compare. It's hard to say that a 20-year-old space game is still the best in the genre, but it is.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I liked it, and if you like that type of genre at all, you should play it. Especially it's actually one of the few that's on consoles.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was on PC for a long
First,
while, and then
yeah, then it made its way to PS5 and Xbox.
yeah. So the next game was uh one of my favorite games this year, which is actually like an expansion of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. It's fantastic because it is an actual love letter to the entire series. So we're talking about 300 hours worth of game, and it gets one of the best endings you're ever going to get for an entire series. It did not do the Kingdom Hearts 3 bullcrap where oh hey, we're still going to try to continue it from here. This was supposed to be the end of the saga, but no, actually it's not. No, this one actually said we're going to end it here and we're going to give you the ending, and it was beautiful. And just, man, I'd like to feel like you were benefited from having played all of those games, the 100 hours that each one of them takes, and you get this like 25-hour story and it wraps it up so well, is a testament to everybody that was involved in that. Monolith Softs are the kings of storytelling for Nintendo, and I mean they're the ones that also help with the Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom as well. But it's just like this was there. He was able to achieve the magnum opus that he wanted with this series, and I don't know where they're gonna go from here after that, but I'm so happy that we got the ending that it deserved, and that's what makes these things worth it for sure. So if you played all the games and you haven't checked this out yet, definitely go do, because it's well worth that time. Mark, Remnant 2
Yep,
is
one of Yen's favorite games of the year by far.
yeah.
It's a better playing version of Remnant. Like the melee is functional now. The bosses aren't quite as cheap or quite as annoying. Uh, Still limited. The two recycled worlds are still a little limited in terms of like biome or like levels, but the two new ones are pretty expansive and interesting. Uh, and overall, it's a really good shooter, a good like Souls-like shooter. That I'm happy with, I should say.
So this game is on Game Pass now. So like for
Yeah,
me and Randy that maybe are not Souls like people,
yeah.
but
Play it,
we
but
play
play it
this,
together.
then
Yeah,
yeah.
especially like if you like Gears of War or something, like it's a really good shooter. Uh,
Okay. I'm a
and
big
I think
Gears of War fan.
playing it with like another person would actually really help,
Okay. Well,
because playing it alone will suck, but playing it with someone, at least one other person, will help. And it's real easy to get other people involved as well. So
that's good. It's worth
yep,
means it's worth checking out
yeah,
on that for sure. Um Alan Wake 2. I know Randy, you're going through the Alan Wake remastered.
Yeah, I'm through the
Um
third chapter of the first one, so I didn't quite get to where I wanted to get, so I could play the second one. But I'm liking what I've played in the first one, and I keep hearing the second one's better.
okay, so I'm gonna keep this spoiler free, but my God, play this game already. Alan Wake 2 is freaking amazing. It was my number 2 game of the year. It's I'm somebody that loves like all the weird, like True Detective and Twin Peaks and all that stuff, and it's like right up my alley. And they do the survival horror stuff better in this game, obviously, especially with the saga part. The Alan Wake part doesn't always land, but man, when it actually hits, it's so good, and the story stuff is so well done. All of the how they connect Control and Alan Wake, and even some Max Payne stuff in there. It's like, this is nuts, man. This is nuts how he was able to do this, and such a Sam Lake definitely like deserves all the awards he's gotten or whatever for this game, because man, he really just absolutely nailed it with this. And um yeah, it's Saga's parts is really cool because you have the Mind Palace stuff, or what they call Mind Place, but whatever. It's kind of the same. And then you get the Alan Wake stuff where he's like rewriting his story and going through all that. And like when you go to some of these locations, it's like, wow, you can kind of tell where this is taken from, and it's done so well. And then they already did it at the Game Awards, so when you get to that moment, it's even more amazing seeing it in the game. So I don't want to spoil it for people, but yeah, this game is just absolutely fantastic. And if you like stories, if you like weird stuff, um, there's more story than gameplay in here. It's not a total survival game, horror game. There's gonna be a lot of times where you're going through and there's not people you're running into, but even those parts of the game are done well, and it's just, yeah, man, this is awesome. Definitely go check it out.
Yep. Needs to get on Steam.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, not sure when it's gonna show up on Steam.
Never.
Yeah, probably, unfortunately. Well, you could get it on PS5, Mark.
Yeah, but that's expensive.
I'm sure it'll go on. Wasn't it? Well, it'll probably go on another sale besides the like what $47 or whatever it's at right now.
Yeah, the Epic one. It's on sale for like $26.
Oh,
I'd get it for
well,
$26 on Steam, no problem. But
yeah, I can understand that. It's fine. I kind of get the whole thing with the stores a little bit more now than in the past. But yeah. Moving on to a game that's a lot of controversy this year with this game, Hogwarts Legacy. It's our number 9. Mark, it was your number 2 game of the year. Why is it your number 2?
Because it's functional enough.
Okay.
The story is decent, I guess, but I don't know. It's another one of those games that can just kind of like turn it on and have a podcast on, or just start watching other shows, and
Yeah.
it's pretty brainless. I think parts of it are really funny, like all the amount of gear you can get, which is absolutely insane for no good reason.
Yeah.
And it suffers the problem of being way too big of a game. I would be extremely happy with a 30-hour game. It does not need to be a 100-hour game.
So it's too open world for you.
Yeah. It's the same problem as that Mad Max game from like a decade ago. It's like, this did not need to be like this, guys. Come on.
Okay.
But I like it. I actually wish there was more story or more school part of it. Like, that's another criticism. I wish it was like I do wish it was like more like Magical Bully. Where you actually had more of like a school structure. Like once you do like each of the classes, all right, it's like, yeah, go do what you want now. Like you can do anything you want. It's like,
yeah,
aren't you supposed to be a kid like in Hogwarts, or like a junior or something? Like you don't really have that in this game at all.
Well, but isn't it like free for you to explore or whatever?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like there's like you can be out at any time. Like it's just like completely. Like they don't have any semblance of structure anymore in the game.
Right.
So, I like it. It's not the greatest game, so
yeah,
I got to fall back on.
Yeah, like I said, I think if you are tuning in late, Mark had to spend a lot of the year recuperating from surgery, so it wasn't like he got to play all the games he wanted, and then he's picking, So I'll give you the pass on this here, because I'm sure you probably would have other games that you would have wished you played that you would have.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2, for example.
Yeah. So this is now we're getting into the big tier territory, because Mark, like I said, Randy had a lot of games that either I had or Mark already had. So this is my number 1 game of the year, Octopath Traveler 2. It's the game I spent the most time on, 127 hours. It is absolutely, when you talk about iterating and improving upon the first game, this game does that in spades. Everything about this game is better than the first game. The stories of all the characters are better. How they actually make the characters interact more in this game than the first game. They're all kind of separated by design. I get it, but it's way too separated. The stories are super basic, all that, but the music is amazing, and the day and night cycle makes sense. All of that, every part of this game is fantastic. I don't know where Team Asano is going to go from here, if there's going to be an Octopath Traveler 3 or not. But man, they hit the high bar. And I don't know if they're going to be able to surpass that with 3. Or they did say they're going to have a lot of announcements, especially if there's a Switch 2 or something. But man, this was I still don't know how it did not get voted for best RPG in that category for Game Awards. It got snubbed really bad for best music. It deserves both of those. It's an awesome game. If you love the HD 2D, this is like the best version of the HD 2D games that's out there. Go play this. I know it's long. It is super long. If you're not one that can do this, I will say this. If you want to really be able to showcase the graphics, get it on PS5. If you don't care about the graphics, it's really great on Switch because you can play it portably, and that's how RPGs are best experience, because you can play them on the go and then whatever. But man, the game's worth it, even with how long it is.
Sure.
So now moving into games. I'm sorry, Randy, you've had to go through a long period where you didn't talk. Number 7, I put Cocoon like way down at the bottom of my list at like the number 15 for me. But this is really here because this was your number 3 game. Why Cocoon so high? What makes it great for you?
Because it's not a long game. It's not like Octopath Traveler. I was able to finish this one. No, Cocoon is phenomenal. Anybody that knows me knows I love puzzle games. They're my go-to just when I have a little bit of time. Humanity also making my top 10. But what I liked more about Cocoon was it really was thought-provoking. Just the different mechanics that they introduce and then interact with each other throughout. There were so many, I don't know how many times that I was playing this game, I was like, well, son of a bitch. Like, what? How did they come up with this? And like trying to figure out solutions. And it was never way over the top. It was never like the old school PC puzzle games where it was like, if you don't have a guide, you have zero chance of solving it. It was just clever enough where you kind of understood what they were going for. But then they introduce new mechanics and then twist them around just enough where every time you're like, well, what does this want? And you mess around with it for a little bit. Like I said, it's super short. I think it took me 4 hours to complete this game. A couple of sessions with it. I know some people have sat down and just done it all in one day. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's no story to it at all. I do kind of wish it would have amounted to anything, even with more like a Limbo style of story where you can kind of get the gist of what things are going on. There really wasn't even much of that, but just overall, the puzzles were so much better than what Humanity had to offer. And in the end, I had to move it really high up on my list because I loved every second of that game.
Yeah, that I played a Cocoon. And I liked it because of that, because I didn't feel like I was having to rock my head to figure out the puzzles. It felt kind of seamless at times, like you're going through here and okay, this kind of makes sense of going to the next thing. And there's the little cocoon that I gotta hold, the little ball, the orb I gotta hold, and then I'm gonna go to the next like the whole warping between the worlds thing was really awesome as well. And like, yeah, like you said, there's not a story, but the way that they do the puzzles is really, really interesting. And
yeah, each orb is its own little world, and then each orb interacts differently with different powers, which then unlocks different things in the different worlds, and then having to jump in and out of these orbs and combining them. By the end of it, the way they do some of their puzzle solutions is just, it's so damn clever how different orbs are interacting, and I love it. It was really good.
Yeah, it's also on Game Pass, so you can go check that out. Again, well worth the time. It's a short game. Uh, go do that. Another game that our number 6 game, uh, Sea of Stars. Randy, you and I didn't get to play a ton of it. I wanted to, this is a game that I really, really wanted to play more of, and I just kept having things get in the way. But man, what I did play is absolutely what I wanted from the game. The Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, Final Fantasy VI, all that mashup together in a modern way, and just so great. What did you like about it?
I'm 100% in the same boat as you, where I'm maybe a third of the way through this game. If I had to guess, who know? I haven't looked up how long this game is, but I'm just starting to get to. I mean, I've opened up the world a bit more, and things are starting to actually interact. So, just getting to the fun part of it. It's another game I hope to really dive into in January, but I could not put it on the list. I'm with you. Absolutely loved everything about it. This was a love letter to those old school RPGs, and like you said, and we'll talk about another RPG that is kind of going away from its roots, which has made it very decisive, and it's very decisive just with the three of us here. Like, this is a love letter to what RPGs used to be like in the 90s, and it nails every aspect of it. The characters are fun, the dialogue's great, the music's fantastic. I miss these classic RPGs that make you interact while you do the combat, and it allows you to hit a little bit harder or take less damage, just so you're not just sitting there and just waiting for everything to work out. Some clever combinations between the two, and yeah, I'm just really excited to play more of it. But I could not have it on my list.
Yeah, I will say the story takes a little bit takes a while to get going. That's one of the knocks against it. But man, I love the interaction between the three main characters, and the way that, like, there's other characters you get out of it, but the three main ones are like what make the game special. And then just, you know, the way the combat works, it's not just the Super Mario RPG stuff, it's also layering things on top of that afterwards as well, that like being able to cancel attacks from the other enemies and things like that. It's just, man, the art style, the exploring in the world feels so free. Like there's Zelda puzzles in here. Like, man, they really thought of everything. There's even fishing, as you're seeing in the trailer, and the fishing is actually fun in here. Fishing is a theme of 2023 also. But yeah, it's one of these things where it's just like, man, they really took everything that you could want in one of these old school RPGs, made it modern. It's somehow connected to the Messenger. Still haven't figured that out. But I watched the documentary thing that the Escapist did on this, and it's actually really good at showing like why they wanted to make this and what the thought went on in doing that. And it's just, man, they realized that so well, and I'm glad to see them. It's one of the only games we've ever seen Xbox and PS Plus have it on both of their services on day one, with how much hype this game had going into it. And I'm glad that when people got to experience it this year, that's awesome, for sure. So moving on to, we're now in our top 5. Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Randy, both of us enjoyed this game. We both talked about it. What made this special one for you here?
Yeah, it's just Mario, and they just continue to nail the same simple stuff. It never gets old. I think that the 3D games for a little bit, where they kept going through the same formula, kind of were starting to drag a little bit. So they've done such a great job with Odyssey in the 3D realm, and now here with Wonder in the 2D realm, that it's been just so much fun to play. They add in all these different secrets. Everyone knows about the Wonder Seeds and the way they interact with every single level, and for the most part, most of them are unique and make them different. I've come into a couple of duplicates throughout, but it's just so much fun, and it's so cute and so great, and had fun with with the family playing it. This is another game where the four of us sit down and play, though I do wish that it would just lock me into the first player and not have our
Yeah,
6-year-old
that's
run
something I
out.
cannot believe they have not fixed still.
Right. My
Like,
6-year-old will run out in front, and all of a sudden she's the leader, and then we're trying to keep up with her, and then she dies, and it gets all messy. So that
yeah,
could get a little frustrating. I think the 4-player mode could work a bit better than it has. But even just sitting there watching one of us play has been a joy. It's just been a great family game, and I'm right on the final world. I'm getting ready to try to complete this one, but it's so good. I love this game.
yeah. I definitely think that they took all of the like things that you love from Mario World and then tried to bring it to the Switch and bring something new with the Wonder Seed, and it feels different. It feels fresh.
Mhm.
It's like all bright, and you got Piranha Plant singing and all this kind of other stuff in here that like makes it feel like we're not just trying to do the same thing like you said with the 3D games where it felt like, okay, here's another one of those. Like this
Mhm.
definitely doesn't feel. I know there's people that are going to say that, oh, it's 2D Mario again. Like, no, this feels like a different 2D Mario than what we've been getting with the past 2D Marios for a while. So I definitely do think that it's deserving of being on people's lists, and like it's been a joy. I brought my daughter into playing it, and she's been loving it too. And man, great one from Nintendo here. To if this is the last Mario game on the Switch, it's very well done. Going into our number 4 game, the game that's like you said, the most divisive one on the list here. It was actually the Outer Havens, because they did the same way we did, where we did the point system. The Outer Havens game of the year was Final Fantasy 16. And this is our number 4 game. Randy and I were on the spoiler cast for it. We enjoyed the game. Mark played through the game and hated apparently every part of it. I played through the DLC and also enjoyed the 3-hour DLC as well. I guess Mark, since you're the outlier here,
Yep, I'm the correct thinking
what
one.
made it a problem for you?
The
You
story is
know,
a really bad Game of Thrones knockoff. The combat is shallow and stupid. I didn't find the music that impressive. If anything, Final Fantasy 15's music was better.
oh come
The
on,
gear
man.
system is bad. It has no gear system. Uh,
That's fair.
the side
Okay.
quests are terrible. Like it's all the same crap. What more do you
Uh,
want? What more do you want me to say?
I mean, I will push back on you with the side quests. I think that there are side quests that are definitely like based on the MMO where this is from. We got to remember that Yoshi P
Mhm.
is the guy that is Final Fantasy 14.
You should
And
stick to,
yes,
you should stick to that game then.
no, but I think that they build upon each other, right? Like you're going through these things and these people remember you, and it eventually gets to the ones that have the story and make the most sense and all that stuff. Yes, you have to play through all of the bad side quests or whatever to get to that, but they do have a payoff, and I feel like
Okay, yeah,
that kind of makes some of them worth it. Yeah.
maybe like one or two do, I guess. Like the one guy in the desert, like you do his spiel, or like the madam, but it's like two or three. It's not
No,
like
but
some
okay. So each
big
of the main characters get a piece of extra side story that kind of ends their chapter with Clive before
Also, I
you
found I found it
yeah.
really funny that the game basically starts, not starts, but the main game basically starts with Clive as like the soldier, like, and within an hour you meet four of the five, like five of the six people who have the summons. The only guy you don't
Right.
really meet is like the king.
Right.
He's like way
Odin.
later.
Yeah.
That Hugo guy, I think that's his name, should have been the
Hmm.
bad guy. The fact that they kept like switching bad guys to make it not important at all. Like,
Yeah.
uh, and even like the whole like magic system. So you have like like nine schools of magic, but it's so cumbersome to use. That's why I just stuck with the three. It's not like you're not gonna like be swapping them out like mid battle.
I mean,
Or
you
it's like,
can't. So
you can, but I say, I guess I'm gonna go on this mini system, respec to the water one, refund all my points from the earth one to unlock the abilities in the water one, and then get back to it.
well, but you
And
can't do it mid battle. You have to like finish the battle you're on, and
okay,
then
then that negates
but
that
yeah.
point. So yeah, like just stick with the 3 and that's it. And
Right,
attack,
but
you only have like
okay.
one attack button.
But I think that's totally fine. You find the systems that work for you, and then you get in a comfort zone. I don't think there's any game that wants you to use every
No,
single possible option.
Yeah.
okay, but then why give me? Okay, I did that. I stuck with the 3 initial ones, like
Mhm.
the fire one,
Right.
lightning, and the wind one. And it's like, oh, here's 7 more. It's like, why would I want to change?
Well, because a lot of them are fun, right, to use,
But
and
no, but I'm agreeing with Randy's point. I got to like I was already effective with the first 3. Like,
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's okay to have the 3, but having options on top of it, I don't think that's a knock just because you don't have to use them. I will agree a bit with Mark. I do think that there were too many side quests and too many that really were filler. So there were some fantastic ones, like Sean says, but to try to get through some of the other ones did kind of feel daunting a bit. I will disagree a bit. I actually liked all of the big bads, and sure, they introduced most of them at the beginning, but I think that's different than what a lot of Final Fantasies do, where
yeah.
you think you're going up against the main bad, and then in the last 20 minutes, it's a whole different thing, and
Yeah, how many
they
Final Fantasy games have we
dump
played
stuff.
where like there's one more thing you got to fight too. Like no, I mean that's
that
basically what
literally
this was.
is Final Fantasy 16 though. It's like,
No,
okay, you
Ultimate was
initially
But
this.
that okay, but there's
you
also
initially
that
think it's
in.
you
Go
initially
ahead.
think it's Hugo, then you think it's the
No,
one King's buddy guy, then
no,
the
I
king,
never.
No, by
and
the time we get to Odin, we already know it's Ultima. By the
Yeah,
time we get to Odin, we know it's Ultima by then. But
yeah,
like,
but you still have to like face the king. It's not
well,
like
but that's
of
the
course.
point. Ultima makes them so that you have to go through them to get to him. Like, and the whole reason you meet Kupta at the beginning is because they're all from the different kingdoms, right? Like the Game of Thrones setup. They're the ones that are all from these different kingdoms, so they're telling you the whole setup of the Game of Thrones thing. That yes, they dropped that in the middle to do a Final Fantasy story, which I agree. Maybe some of that could have been handled better. I do think
Mhm.
that part of that gets dropped, just like
what you
the
don't want to have the evil queen lady say you have to bend the knee like she did in the game.
she also should have suffered a worser fate also.
Yes.
But also they could have the slavery thing that they bring up gets dropped, and a lot of that gets handled in the side quests, which they didn't do a great job of pushing that
No,
either.
believe me, it's not
So
like I half-assed that game. The only thing I didn't do in that game was like the which I think we talked about, like the specific
oh
schools of Magic Fight.
the
Like,
arcade stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
we
I
didn't
didn't do
handle
No.
that.
that.
I did every damn side quest in that game.
Well, look, I will disagree with you. I love the music in this game.
That's how I know the combat and the gear system is
Yeah.
shallow, because it's like, okay, I got a new sword. It increases your damage by
Oh, the
15
gear
number.
system's terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the gear system is absolutely. It was tacked on because they felt like they had to have it. Like
And I think we can all agree, Final Fantasy 16 is not an RPG.
it's not. It's
They, they,
it's an
they throw numbers
RPG.
out. They throw
Yeah,
numbers out. That's it.
It isn't an RPG, but if it's an action game, it's still a bad action game.
it is a very just
Because like
basic.
in like every action
You
game,
know,
like Spider-Man or God of War or Devil May Cry, there's always like a light attack and heavy attack. This game has attack and very ineffectual magic that doesn't do
yeah.
shit.
No, the
So you just
magic was yeah.
wail on the attack buttons, and then occasionally do the special attacks when they are like usable, and that's it.
I'm really wondering that if they're gonna do a Xenoblade 2 Torna situation with the Leviathan DLC, where they're gonna put in a bunch of stuff that they wanted to put into this game that they didn't, because they did mention that at one point they were going to try to do the elemental changes or whatever like that, but it made it difficult with all the different icon powers and how are you going to switch them out
And
to be able to
reduce them.
Yeah.
You don't need to have 10. You don't need to have 10. You don't need to have like 2 of the same fire powers.
Right. Well, that one made sense for the story, right? Because you have the Phoenix and the I did enjoy the story. I love the big bads. I love the different fights that you have. They felt epic, every single one of them. Like, as far as spectacle goes, as far as like what you're used to with a PlayStation game where you're getting the narrative action thing, yeah, like they pulled that off here. And
even those summon fights though felt incredibly like tacked on, because it's like the summon felt clunky, like as you're fighting with Ifrit, it felt like not.
No, that's the first one feels very clunky. After that, I didn't feel that much.
But also, like you have like no way of failing those unless you're just a complete idiot. Like,
I agree with that. Yeah,
they kind of on this thing for a while until like the next QTE happens, and it's like, okay, now I'm falling to the earth, literally thousands of miles to the earth.
Yeah.
Hey, it's called Final Fantasy, not Final Reality, sir.
We
can stretch the truth a little bit.
Disbelief here.
It shouldn't have the Fast and the Furious type of game logic.
But that's what they were going for, though.
That's a good connection.
They were pretty much going for that, I feel like.
And to be fair, hold on. To be fair, I know Mark really is down on this game, and it feels like it's 2-on-1. But I will say there are issues with this game, which shows because Sean and I both don't have it in our top 3. You had it 4th. I think I had it 5th. So we don't think it's the end all be all. It is definitely not one of my top Final Fantasy games. I would disagree. I do like it more than I did 15, but I think 15 gets a lot more hate than it should. But it's a middle of the road Final Fantasy that tried something different, and I give it respect for it.
I'll say 3 things. First, the icon fight, they were made by Platinum Games, or
not all of them, just one of them.
It feels like a bad Bayonetta, or like the spectacle of Bayonetta fights. It's like that works in Bayonetta because it's a very heightened reality, or like it's supposed to be stupid and crazy. But most of Final Fantasy 16 plays it straight. So when they do stupid and crazy, it's like, no, now it's just really stupid. I can respect it for trying to do something different, but if it doesn't do it well or better than the alternatives or like the other games in the genre. And the third thing I'll say is there's a better Final Fantasy game higher on this list.
Well, the one thing I wanted to point out before we stop talking about this is I know you don't agree, Mark, but Ben Starr does a fantastic job as Clive. He carries it. So does the voice actor for Sid. The interaction between both of them is great.
That was another problem. Is I liked Sid a lot more than Clive. I would be happy to play like DLC where he plays Sid.
I mean, that's something that a lot of people have asked, is wanting to play as Joshua or Jill. Or look, I'll be honest, they don't do their secondary characters that well, but that's because they've said that this game is about Clive. It's not about the other characters, really. So,
like the game has such abrupt jumps in time where it's like, 13 years later, now Clive is, 30 years old. But it still never explained like why Joshua didn't want to say to Clive, I'm still here, until like 2/3 of the way through the game. They're always like Scooby-Dooing it with like just missing each other, or Joshua's just like spying on him like a perv. It's like, just walk up to him and say, "Hey, I'm alive." Like, why didn't it do that?
He didn't know how he was going to react to him, I think, is part of it. Like
they had a good it's not like they were like enemy. I mean, they had a good relationship. Like,
Well, remember, part of it is Clive has to hit L3 and R3 to accept the truth because he's like feeling like he's the one that killed. He's the one that killed his brother
Well,
for a lot of this time too. So
then use a broken controller. You don't have to hit that, and you'll be all set.
all right, so we had our big fight for the podcast here. The one game that we all agreed on that was on all of our lists, and you did mention it being it's the game about the music of Final Fantasy, which also wound up including Final Fantasy 16's music at the end. Fiat Rhythm Final Bar Line, which is the Switch version of the other Fiat Rhythm games.
Well, Switch and
Uh,
PS4.
well, yeah, Switch PS4. The other ones are on the DS and 3DS systems. Look, we all love Final Fantasy to a varying degree. Here, I think all of us are at least all familiar with them. If you love the Final Fantasies at all, you certainly will probably love the music, and they don't shy away from that here. They do a great job with all of that. I mean, what do you think makes this game special, Randy? Like, why'd you have it on your list?
It's just the music. The music is so good. The different ways that they have you basically go through the same style. Nothing really changes. But there's a couple different versions where it's just a bunch of button presses, excuse me, or you can move the thing up and down. That's great. I do like that all the different characters can do different moves and trying to come away with the best combination. At least add some variety to the game. I do like that the campaign unlocks extra songs as well just to give you more to try to play, but it's because the music is so good, and it was that great game to just play for a bit here and there, and I continue to play it now, and I like that they have added songs from other Square franchises as well just to get different feels of it. And it's just so great to go from the crazy orchestra of like Final Fantasy 7 remake or Final Fantasy 16 and then switch over to like Final Fantasy 2 and just have that chiptune music blare into your ear, and it all works and it's all great, and it was just a fun time. I know they had it for the 3DS before, and this is just kind of a copy and paste of that, but it works so good on the big screen.
Yeah, everything Randy said is spot on there. I mean, you can't go wrong with Final Fantasy music, and then the fact that you get all of it, basically. Not every single song, but like the
Right.
greatest hits of all of the numbered games and even a lot of the spin-offs and everything. It really feels like an encyclopedia of Final Fantasy music in one game. And then they add on with DLC the other Square properties, the Mana games, the Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, all the Saga games, all of that. Like it's amazing that they've added all that in there. The Near Automata, all that. So I wish they could keep expanding it. I don't know if it just didn't sell well enough or they just didn't plan for it to go that long with the DLC. Would have been cool if they could put some Kingdom Hearts in there too, but I get it, it definitely does have its own music game. But yeah, it's whether you get it on PS4, 5, or Switch, it's fantastic to get. And yeah, go after it. Mark, any thoughts on
I
this
actually
one?
think it's a really approachable game.
Yeah.
Like I played that thing in the arcade, like like untranslated Japanese, and I was able to figure it mostly out.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that it translates obviously into English, and it's like, oh, this is what all this crap actually means. That's helpful. But even from the get go, I kind of figured it out, and I think it's just a really fun game. I think like if
Yeah.
you get it can get overly complicated, but like the normal difficulty is good enough.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for the most part, it feels like you're playing the actual songs. Like they're not like. I mean, some of them feel like they're cut, but a lot of them are the full song, and you're not getting it butchered to play it on a normal difficulty or whatever. And you do get to level up your favorite characters and have them do attacks, like you said, and all that, and have like the mixed mash of different teams from different Final Fantasies too, which is cool.
Mhm.
And they add like special things with the airship and the Moogle and all that too. So yeah, it's like a really cool love letter to Final Fantasy. Um, that they also do in 16. But I think if you just love Final Fantasy in general, you will appreciate their.
Yeah, and they do a really good job. I don't do it very often anymore, but you can play competitively against people online and mess around with their stuff and send them evil things. And also when you do play with people, they send you cards just from playing with them, and it upgrades your people. So they do just interesting things that kind of just make you want to try different stuff in the game. It works really well.
Well, our number 1 and 2 game, I have not played. I played the first part of the number 1 game. I haven't played number 2 at all. You guys have. Number 2 is Marvel Spider-Man 2, the PS5, the big PS5 exclusive game of this year. Randy, why was it number 2 on your list?
Did I have a 2 or 1? I had a number 1 on mine.
Yeah, number 1. I'm sorry. Yeah, number 1.
I had a number 2 or probably
okay. Well, it was number 1 and 2 for you guys. So
yeah, and it was back and forth with the other game that is number 1 on our list, trying to figure out which order I wanted to put them on. Yes, I know the complaints. It is just more Spider-Man, but that's what I love about it. It's just more Spider-Man. There are many sequels that come out that overcomplicate their own system. We've talked about it a couple of times. Moving Out 2 really overcomplicated its system, and it was not as fun as the original. I feel the same way that from what Marc was saying about Tears of the Kingdom. It overcomplicated stuff. Spider-Man 2, it's just more Spider-Man, but you get to play as both versions of Miles Morales and Peter Parker. They both play just slightly different enough where it's not overcomplicated, but it does feel different. They do some cool stuff with the story that I won't spoil through the different stuff and the different gameplay you can get in. But what made me put it number 1 was the first game had its flaws. And I think with the second one, they heard the gamers and went, all right, you didn't really like this stuff as much. We want to still keep it around so it feels like the first one, but you're not going to do it as much. You're not sneaking around as much as you do in the original game. And all of these side arrest criminal stuff that you would have to do, there's some of it, but there's not as much. So you still get some bits and pieces. So it still feels like the original, but it's not as complicated. I did like some of the side stuff more in this game than I did the first one, but I also can agree that there's not as much variety as you would expect from a sequel. But it hit the right notes for me as far as being my game of the year. Again, I haven't had a ton of time. None of us have had as much time gaming this year as we've had in previous years for various reasons. But for whatever reason, I could not stop playing this game. I lost sleep putting 4 or 5 hours into a night that I should have only played for 1 because I just could not put it down. Absolutely love it. My son's been playing it. He loves it too. So again, it was really close with what ended up being our game of the year, and I can't disagree with its placing, but I absolutely love this game.
Marc,
I don't know. I liked it enough, but I think that it didn't overcomplicate it like Tears of the Kingdom, but I think it reduced it in a lot of key ways, like the suit powers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that which kind of turned me off a little. I didn't really like the story in this one as much either compared to the first one. Like, yes, this does reduce like the sneaking around crap, although it still has some, at least 3 of those that I can think of. But it was good, but I just thought that to me, I thought the first one was just better for like it just seemed like a more of an experimental game.
That's fair.
Yeah. And
I will agree partially with the story. I think it drags out a little bit. Well, I mean, we all know what's going to happen with Peter and Harry. We all know the story of Spider-Man and Venom and everything that goes on in that situation, whether it's from the comic books or the movies or the cartoons. And it's been retold 100 times. And it does drag out a bit to get to that climax. But I do appreciate the slow build of Peter. And it's like, all right, it's going to happen. And then they tease it a little bit. And you think, all right, here's the moment. Nope, it's not going to happen. And again, I won't spoil things, but they do a good job at one point with a possible twist to his story. They don't go that route, but they at least make you think that they were going to change it in a different way. And I do appreciate that they at least gave the little suggestion just so it wasn't just so paint and dry. But yeah, I do understand the story wasn't as tight and strong. But I think Miles Morales' story was really small and we didn't dive into it enough. So
Yeah,
to
he
me,
seemed like
worked
he was
out
like
all right.
singularly focused on Mr. Negative, and it's like you got
Mhm.
other shit going. You could have other stuff going on. Like the fact that like the first half of that game is devoted to Craven also is just like, really?
Yeah,
This
and
team
the
of villains?
way Craven no longer is in the game is shocking what they did
Yeah.
for
Al-
with Craven being around. I agree.
Also, I had some like nasty performance issues with the game. Like it
Mhm.
bugged out of me hard a few times.
I'm trying to think. I think I had one crash and I had one weird situation happen. I think my son had a weird one that he brought me down to as well. I will agree. It did seem more buggy than the first one, which was a bit surprising because you think they'd had the formula down. So like
Yeah,
I said,
you
I
expected it
totally
to
get.
be. Yeah,
Yeah, I totally get it, but I think it's the same with you and having Hogwarts Legacy so high. We just missed so many of the other games I think would be so much higher on our list. And I don't disagree with Hogwarts Legacy. Haley's put 120 hours into that damn game, so she would
yeah.
100% agree with you. But that's the problem with this year and the three of us trying to do this list. That's here's the ranking of games we actually had a chance to play this year in a year that had way too many and a year for the three of us that had too much shit go on that made it difficult
Exactly.
for us to play these games. So I know Sean has said it multiple times, but apologies for all the other games we've missed.
Yeah, it feels like every week there was something. Not literally every week, but it felt like almost every week there was something that your attention needed to go to
Mhm.
in this year. And then you had the huge mammoth games that took up segments of the year. That
Right.
some of them we got to play, some of them we didn't. And it's crazy. And I know, especially with the game that is our number one, that people are going to be like, really? Out of
Mhm.
all the games that you guys could have picked, it's a game
Pick
that
this one.
technically didn't come out this year, because it's Resident Evil 4, the remake, but it's a game that both Mark and Randy apparently loved so
Mhm.
much to put it at number 1 and 2 for them. It's a game that I barely started playing myself, but I can appreciate. I mean, it was up for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Enough people really loved it that much as well. It's the one remake that everybody seems to excuse as
Yeah.
the okay, you can have this on, but maybe
Mhm.
not anything else, but you can have this one. What makes it special as like it's not really doing the Final Fantasy VII remake thing where it's totally telling a different story or whatever. It's kind of
Mhm.
being more to the original. So does this one stand up there with the Resident Evil 2 remake, Randy, you feel like?
Right, let Mark go first. I got my opinions, but I'll let him go first.
I think it's
Okay.
better than like the Resident Evil 2 remake. Uh, and it certainly looks better, but also like they did tie up or clean up some of the Resident Evil 4 stupidity, like the stupid fucking robot that you fight like late in the game. I think that's gone, thankfully. Ashley's far less annoying. I replayed that through that game 2.5 times, just to like unlock more stuff. It feels good. The like knife counter is effective and
Mhm.
like fun to do. It's still the same like basic structure, but that structure works for a reason, and it still works now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, anybody that knows me, I over the years I've kind of soured on Resident Evil 4 because of what Resident Evil 5 and then Resident Evil 6 became. I blame Resident Evil 4 for turning Resident Evil down a path that it just could
An
not come
action
back
game,
from. Yeah,
not
it
a
just
horror
would
game.
actually yes. And so I have soured on Resident Evil 4 and I I might agree with Mark that Resident Evil 4 Remake is better than Resident Evil 2 Remake, even though Resident Evil 2, the original, is still my favorite Resident Evil game of all time. I love the remake and I love what they did with it. But playing Resident Evil 4 Remake just kind of had that same feeling I think that Resident Evil 4 had when it first came out. They're like, okay, so this is what Capcom can now do with these remakes, and it just nails everything. The action is over the top and crazy. There's still some spooky stuff to it. The combat is fantastic. Like Mark said, the knife works beautifully, and they really play into that. They do take away some of the stuff from Resident Evil 4, and some of it gets moved to the Ada Wong DLC that came out a bit later. But for the most part, all the goofiness is still there. The merchant is still there. Some of the weird enemies that you're like, they're not going to do this with Resident Evil 4. They're going to cut this, right? Nope, they made it crazier with Remake. And the whole thing is just fantastic. It's beautiful, and this is what remakes need to be. Now, Resident Evil, like you said, Final Fantasy VII Remake, completely different because they took the word remake and made it something. The meaning of remake is something completely different to Square. But this is just a love letter to what Resident Evil did to this whole genre, and it's going to change that genre once again. And now I know they tease things, and we'll probably get Resident Evil 5 at some point get remade, and I'm worried about that. Maybe they can remake 6 and actually make it playable. But no, 4 it's perfectly done. I honestly cannot think of something I would want changed with remake. And like I said, that's why I'm totally fine with it being game of the year. I just put Spider-Man 2 in there because it took over my life for a week. And like I said, this is a remake, so ding it just a little bit. It's so good. And Sean, I like you with Alan Wake 2 and wanting me to play it so bad. I cannot wait for you to play more of that game.
Yeah,
the only thing
go on. It's definitely going to be my January game until we get to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, where I'm going to take the time to play this for sure.
I would say the only thing I actually didn't like about the remake was the shooting gallery crap and like the keychain gotcha system.
Yeah.
But that's
to me, unless you're going for trophies, you can skip it. Like some of the keychains that you get are beneficial and they help you a little bit, but they make sure that it's not anything way overpowered.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's incredible what this year has been, as far as from the gaming standpoint, like video games actually releasing. You know, the amount and the awesomeness of these games, and like Resident Evil 4 is right up there with them as far as what they were able to do with this remake. Testament to Capcom, who has taken upon themselves to not just like, oh, let's just give them the game again or whatever. Like, they're really doing justice to these things.
And then the second time in recent history we put a Resident Evil game as our game of the year. Wasn't Village our game of the year when it came out? Or was it really close? What was it?
It's probably
was it Village that year?
It may have been close. I don't know if it was a game of the year, but
I'm trying to remember if it won or if it was. I know it was top 3. It was right in the mix. I think it might have even won because all of us had it in our top 5. So we all finally just went, you know what? We all actually agree on this. And that's the other thing too. We talk about it a lot of times with how great this year is. And all the games that we've missed. Just look at Spider-Man as an example. When the first one came out, I think, Mark, you had that as your game of the year that year, or right up there. It was up there for a lot of us, but look at all the games that came out the same year as Spider-Man that we all had the time to play, and it kind of bumped it down the list. This year, we didn't get to all those other games. So Spider-Man shoots up to number 2, even though Mark liked it a little bit less. I loved it about the same. And it's just a wild year for all 3 of us, and games we'll get to. I know people get mad Baldur's Gate 3 is not on there. I played the 2-hour demo that PlayStation let me have, and I'm very tempted now to get into that game, even though it is far from my genre. But I very much enjoyed the 2 hours I played of it.
Yeah. It's definitely probably the Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3 is probably going to be the one that I'm sure people were like, how is this not even on here? What the? But yeah, unfortunately, like I'm at the same thing. I'm probably going to wind up playing that trial, but it's just, that's a lot, man. It's a lot to sit there and invest money in a game that you're not sure if it's for you. Right. And I'd rather take that route than buy something and then go, man, it wasn't for me, and then I'm sitting here upset about that. That's something that we see happen a lot, and I'd rather be not one of those people. Randy, you weren't on at the beginning to kind of give your thoughts on the year. Like, was there anything from this year that like you really stood out to you that you wanted to say something about aside from
just that there was so many damn games. I know a lot of the drama going on in the industry, and you hate to see that with all the layoffs and stuff. But overall, as far as gamers go, it was a fantastic year. I know the build up, we talked about it last year. Look at all these games that are scheduled to come out. And if they all come out, they're all going to hit. And there were games that came out that we all just assumed were going to be at the top of the list that just didn't work out. Starfield, anybody?
Yep, you talked about that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was just one of the top years. I still would not say this was the greatest game or greatest year in gaming. There have been others where I think it was deeper, but one of those years where like all the genres were hit, all the genres had a banger for somebody to get into, and that's the fun thing about gaming is we all have different tastes, but there's always going to be multiple games every year that tickle our fancy, if you will, and we all really get into. And I'm super excited for next year where we know all these games in the first 3 months and then nothing. And I love the mystery of next year.
Exactly.
A lot of people are worried about it, but there's going to be other award shows. There's going to be other directs and showcases and all that stuff that are going to reveal all these ridiculous games. I love the mystery of next year. And you know what? If next year's a down year, we have all said 100 times just on this show, there's 50 games we missed that we all want to play from this last year. So if 2024 is slow, you know what? I want to do what we did a year or two ago when we were looking back at the decade of the 2010s. I can't wait till we look back at the decade of the 2020s and finally talk about the games we missed in 2020.
Yeah, right.
Our top 10 is going to be completely different when we finally play some of these games.
It's going to be like, oh my God, wow. We got to play Baldur's Gate 3. We got to play all these other ones. There's games that I'm playing right now that I know if I had more time, like Dave the Diver, Resident Evil 4, Dredge, all that, they probably would be on my list maybe. Some of these wouldn't but I just haven't had the time to play them. So, and that's just the indies. I'm not even talking about the big games that I didn't get to play that you guys did. So, yeah, it's incredible what's going to happen this year. What's going to happen with all the big companies. We got some games that we're all looking forward to coming out pretty quick in that 3-month span too. So, our 2020 game of the year, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth's coming right there. Leap year in February. Is it going to be our game of the year for 2024? We'll see.
It'll be that Persona 3 remaster instead.
Oh, the remake?
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of controversy on that one too. But all right. Thank you, Randy, so much for joining us.
No problem.
On this. Next week we'll definitely do our most anticipated games of 2024. Gonna do it more in the regular slot. So on the Friday afternoon-ish time for us. I don't know, Randy, if you're available, you can come on for that too. I don't know.
I'll have to look at my schedule. I can't remember.
And hopefully everybody has a happy new year. Your 2024 is better than your 2023 if it wasn't so great for you. And we'll see y'all later.
Later.